Okay, so our first speaker tonight, again, we're also going to shorten the introductions. Our first speaker is going to be Mike Barrett, and he's going to be talking about Project Nike, subtitled, Look at the Sky, Not Your Shoes. Without further ado, Mike Barrett.
Just do it, Mike. It's a Nike joke about the shoes, not the sun. Just so you guys know, and I'm going to give the microphone to Mike.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you so much, everybody who organizes Nerd Nite. This is a great opportunity. I'm so glad to be here. And thank you all for being here. You are beautiful. You look like you are ready to learn the hell out of some stuff tonight. Is that right? All right, well, first things first, a little about me. So I have been active duty Air Force for almost 16 years. I have been here at Nerd Anchorage for almost 2 years. And I drive a 2015 Hyundai Accent that does not have remote start, and I have never complained about a late or small PFD. What that all adds up to is, I am not a native Alaskan. I just had to get that out of the way because that's the big question up here. No one cares where you're from. I'm from Ohio, but nobody cares. It's just a matter of, are you from Alaska or aren't you? Have you just always been one of us? Or have you had to get used to the way we do things up here instead of those weirdos from the lower 48? So, you guys can be a tough crowd, and you can feel free to throw your beer bottles at me for that if you want to. No, okay, all right, we're off to a great start. But if you do want to throw beer bottles at me for that, or anything else I might say tonight, just do me a favor and make sure that they're Alaskan amber. I mean, stuff tastes like shit, right? Speaking of which, so I got here like 2 years ago, right? And being not from Alaska, I was appalled to learn that Alaskan Brewing Company, Alaskan Brewery, that is the one that's supposed to be the namesake of the entire state of Alaska, is down in Juneau. I mean, what the hell's up with that? I mean, yeah, they're the state capital, okay. But why even are they the state capital? Okay, Anchorage is like 10 times bigger, 57,000 times more awesome. Juneau is like, I think in Canada, you can't find it in a map, or, you know, what the hell's up with that? But, you know what? I say let them keep it, because we got Midnight Sun. So since I'm not from around here originally, I got a pretty interesting surprise on my drive into work a couple years ago, shortly after Thanksgiving. I'm coming over the bridge there by the port, coming up to the government hillgate on J-Bear, and I look off to my right, and in the distance I see this huge shining star. Not like actually in the sky. It's a man-made star. It's made of a bunch of lights. You've all seen that, right? Star up in the mountains? I saw that for the first time. I was like, oh my god, what the hell is that? I couldn't figure out, I'm like, is that in the mountains? Is it in the sky? What is that? How did that get there? It was so cool, and I'm like, and I'm probably sliding on the ice, and I think I still had Texas plates in my car at the time, because that was my last base, so anyone around me is probably going, what the hell is the matter with this guy? But it was so cool that I had to find out what it was. So I got into work, and as soon as I did, I Googled star in the mountains in Anchorage. And I came to learn that that star is part of something called Nike Site Summit, which was an anti-aircraft missile site during the post-World War II and Cold War eras. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And when I said that I did see a few of you look at your shoes, read the instructions, people. Maybe we're not off to a great a start as I thought here. I am kidding. Nike is not just a company that's famous for overpriced and overbranded athletic gear. No, in fact, the original rights to the name Nike, next, went to this babe right here. Nike, the Greek goddess of victory. I think that is her Tinder profile pic, by the way. I heard it from a friend. Next. So she was the original name, and she was chosen to represent America and their anti-air defenses during the Cold War. So we're going to go over, why do we need missile defenses? What was it? What could we find at one of these missile sites, like Site Summit? Where were all of these sites? Because there was more than just the one. What were some of the things wrong, or some of the security concerns with our air defenses at the time? And as I mentioned, it is a former missile site, so why did it come to an end? Why is it a former missile site? So next slide. Well, we needed missile defenses because this was what our air defenses looked like during the war. It was pretty much just a giant machine gun. Plane would come in, and a couple guys would just point, aim, shoot it down. Pretty simple. Next. But during the war, across the ocean, this guy was hard at work. That is Royal Air Force officer, Sir Frank Whittle. And he is credited with being the inventor of the jet engine. So how about that? England gave us bland food, warm beer, some of the world's absolute worst weather, but they gave us jet planes. We salute you for that, sir. So this is what you could expect of air defenses during the war. You had your defended area right there. Whatever it is that you wanted to protect, would be a city, a base, a strategic asset of some kind, and you'd have the guns there protecting it. So during the war, shooting down an enemy aircraft looked something like this. It would just fly on in, you can aim it up there, and probably damage it enough to shoot it down. But now jet aircraft come along. They're selling like hotcakes, more and more nations are using them, and if you tried to shoot a jet aircraft down in the same manner, it would look like this. Whoa, what just happened? See, jet aircraft, they can fly a lot higher and a lot faster than the prop planes that were used during World War II. So if you tried to just point a giant machine gun at it, you'd be way too slow and way too low. There's no way you're ever going to hit it. So with that in mind, in 1944, the War Department put out a request for proposal. They wanted a system that could fire a missile in the air because it moved fast enough, it could fly high enough, it could get up there, it could sufficiently lead a jet aircraft, because if it's flying that fast, you can't shoot it where it is, you gotta shoot it where it's gonna be. So we can get up there, and we can take care of that jet aircraft threat. And in May of 1945, they awarded that contract to Bell Laboratories. And so the US Army, in contest with the badasses down there, gave us Project Nike. And here we are. So how did they hope to accomplish that? How exactly were they going to get a missile up there and shoot down an incoming enemy aircraft? Sounds complicated, and it is, but I've tried to simplify it. Really, it all comes down to 3 radars and a shitload of people, computers, missiles, and science. So first up is our acquisition radar. What that's going to do is just tell us if anything's out there. It's going to search the skies, it's just going to see if it can find anything. And there it finds something. At this point, its job in the world is done. And it hands things over to the tracking radar. That's going to keep eyes on that plane, and that plane only, going to get a track on it. And then it's going to talk to the personnel and the computers in the battery control area. And they're going to determine if that is a friendly or a hostile aircraft. They'll analyze its radar signature, note intelligence, they're going to see if it has a transponder, if it's maybe talking to the ground, they're going to figure out where did it maybe come from, where might it be going. And if they determine that is indeed a hostile aircraft on its way here to bomb the hell out of us, they will determine that we're going to launch a missile. And there's our 3rd radar. The missile tracking radar is going to keep eyes on the missile. The tracking radar is going to keep eyes on the plane. They're going to keep talking to the battery control area. They're going to make all the calculations necessary, put it in that giant calculator, send a missile on up there, hopefully lead it sufficiently, make a good intercept, and kind of science the hell out of that enemy aircraft. So that missile there obviously has a pretty big job to do. So it's got to get way up there, it's got to be fast, and it's got to be powerful. 4 different missiles were designed and chosen to accomplish this task. So we'll take a look at that. All right, the first Nike missile fielded was the Nike Ajax. 30-mile range, 1,700 miles per hour, and could get up to 70,000 feet. Plucky little guy, he packs a good little punch, but then along comes his big brother. The Nike Hercules. This one could go 90 miles, 3,000 miles per hour, get 150,000 feet in the air, and perhaps most importantly, could carry a 20 kiloton nuclear warhead. And to put that into perspective, the Fat Man bomb, which was dropped on Nagasaki to end World War II, 21 kilotons. So this guy here packed the same punch as one that leveled an entire city. I'm gonna think about that for a second. And Slim Pickens approves. He'd ride that bomb all the way to hell. And there's our last 2, Nike Zeus and Nike X. That's a beautiful family, isn't it? I want to get that on a windshield decal and put it on the back of my car. You ever seen those? The decals on the windshields with the family, you know, the mom, dad, the kids, the dog, all that. I want to put this in my windshield, ride around, be like, you know, yeah, your kid gets straight A's, whatever, it's beautiful. Mine destroys enemy aircraft, nah. And you might have also noticed that up there we have Ajax the Great, Trojan war hero, Hercules, big strong Greek dude, Zeus, king of the Greek gods, and you couple all this with our original goddess Nike, representing the program, and it's clear that somebody at Bell Laboratories had a bit of a fetish for Greek mythological figures. But I'm not here to judge, they're a hell of a lot smarter than me, so. Now, Zeus and X were, unfortunately, the red-headed stepchildren of our beautiful family here, because they were never actually fielded. They were designed, a few were built, they were never actually used operationally at a Nike site, and we'll talk a bit more about why later. But for now, so where did this beautiful family live? What we have here are, the red dots represent the center of what were known as the defended areas. And these are the areas that, due to their location, size, and economic and strategic importance, things like that, that the government had decided needed defended by Nike anti-aircraft missiles. And depending on the location and the size and all that stuff, they had a certain number of missile sites defending them. There were 40 defended areas and about 250 actual missile sites. So you see down in the corner here, we have the red dot on top of where we sit. That is the Anchorage defended area. You'll see that to the southeast, there's no red dot. Who did the US government actually think should be the capital of Alaska and could maybe rise to the occasion and save Juneau's ass should it be necessary? I'm kidding, of course. I really do love it up here. Take a moment to cheers to yourself, Alaskans. All right, so each defended area, based on its location and size and all that, had a certain number of sites defending it. So here's the Anchorage defense area. This is where we sit right now, and it had 3 missile sites assigned to it. First, we have Site Bay. It's right up there at Goose Bay, right across the Nick Arm. Site Point at present-day Kincaid Park. And as we're familiar with, Site Summit, up there in the Chugach Mountains by Arctic Valley. And so this picture kind of puts into perspective one of the vulnerabilities or risks involved with this type of anti-aircraft system. You'll see there that these sites are pretty close to Anchorage. They're pretty close to a very populated area where we live and work and recreate and all that. If you remember, the Nike Hercules had a maximum range of 90 miles. So if we're talking about running 90 miles, well, that's a hell of a long run. That requires quite a bit of motivation, a lot of training, a lot of stamina. If we're talking about taking a road trip with your mother-in-law in the car, well, that's a really fucking long 90 miles, requires a lot of motivation, even more stamina, arguably, than the runner. But if we're talking about an enemy aircraft that's on its way here to destroy us, that's not very long, is it? Even if we could shoot that thing down, we got a couple minutes before it's here. That's a little too close for comfort, even if it does work. But because of the missile's range and their natural limitations, they had to be close to the defended areas. If you also remember, the Hercules could carry a nuclear warhead. Any sort of accident were to happen, these missiles could take out the area that they were supposed to defend. But the range of the missiles made it necessary. And also, if you remember all the sciencing that we had going on here? All that science bitching? So that, coupled with the fact that these missile sites had to be close to the populated areas, as it turns out, getting a 3,000 mile per hour object to meet up with a 800 mile per hour object, tens of thousands of feet above the Earth's surface, was, well, it's really fucking hard. Okay? I mean, it looks simple, but this is complicated here to get an intercept. And furthermore, we were never actually able to have full assurance that it would work. Fortunately, the US never actually had to fire a Nike missile at an enemy target. But what that also meant was the only thing that the US had to assure that this would work was training and simulations, drones, fake intercepts essentially. And you can never account for everything that you might see in the real world. Was our intelligence good? Did we get the enemy's capabilities right? Did we get our own right? Is there something that we missed? So the sites were close, they had nuclear warheads, we weren't really sure if this was going to work. But one thing was for sure. It was going to work a hell of a lot better than a machine gun. So it was the premier anti-aircraft missile program for well over a decade. It was badass, but as I mentioned, Summit, as well as all the other sites, are former missile sites. Something eventually did bring Project Nike to an end. Eventually, this all went away. And so why is that? Well, that is really simple. It can be brought down to one word: Sputnik. Oh, my bad. That is Ross Geller as Spudnik. He's a potato and a satellite. He's a funny guy. Hey, there we go. What that is right there is Sputnik 1. And that is the first man-made object in Earth orbit. Launched there by the Soviet Union October 4th, 1953. And it represented two pretty important things. The first one was that it represented a shift in who the United States regarded as the enemy. During World War II, the US and the Soviet Union were allies. Afterwards, though, they couldn't quite agree on the best way to handle this newfangled thing in town called the nuclear weapon. How to get it, how to store it, how to use it, and so that began the start of what we all know as the Cold War. The arms race, the peace race, it became about which of these two superpowers had the bomb. How many did they have? What were they going to do with it? The second thing Sputnik represented was it now made intercontinental ballistic missiles a possibility. If we could put an object into orbit, we could keep it there for as long as we wanted, we could bring it out of orbit wherever we wanted, carrying whatever it was we wanted it to carry. And so that meant that airplanes were no longer necessary to deliver nuclear weapons to far-off lands. And since Nike was designed as an anti-aircraft missile system, this floating 23-inch in diameter ball of metal practically overnight made Project Nike completely obsolete. Impressive. However, we are talking about the United States government. And what that means is just because something doesn't make sense, doesn't mean it won't keep getting a shitload of money thrown at it. So let's go back to our happy family right here. You remember our forgotten ones, Zeus and X, they were never actually fielded. The reason is they were looked at as a solution to combat ICBMs. The US thought it could still use the same concept to defend against missiles, in addition to defend against airplanes. The problem with that was, remember how difficult it was earlier to just get an intercept of an enemy aircraft? Now we're talking about something that's going about 18,000 miles per hour versus about 700, and it's coming down out of the Earth's atmosphere right on top of us. We don't have the time to track it and to prepare and to get a good lock and get a good intercept that we did with the aircraft. If we could get a successful intercept, it would be with about 2 to 3 seconds left before ICBM detonation. That's a little too close for comfort, if you ask me. What ultimately, though, kept this as a solution, and what ultimately killed it, was when the US got intelligence in the late 1950s that the Soviet Union was increasing their inventory of ICBMs from dozens to hundreds. They just kept getting missiles. And the fact that the US trailed the Soviets in the space race for years meant we didn't have capability to match that. So our solution was, well, we've got nothing else. Let's just take Nike, put some new paint on it. Let's make more sights, let's make more missiles, let's make them bigger, stronger, faster. Just kept building them, kept building them. But when the inventory increased to hundreds, what that meant now was, if the Soviet Union ever did choose to launch a missile, wherever it was, it didn't have to do just one. It could send dozens in a single volley. So it didn't take long for the US to realize that it was simply not going to be logistically or economically possible to field enough missiles to keep up on top of what was already a very risky and dangerous system. And so upon realizing that in 1963, President JFK said, direct quote by the way, But you gotta imagine it in his eloquent, like Boston accent, right? Do you guys like impressions? Yeah, me too. Moving on. I don't know if JFK actually said no, but what I do know is in 1963, he cut funding to the program and effectively ended Project Nike. So over the next decade, sites began to decommission. Most of them were destroyed. The land was used for something else. Some were repurposed. A lot of the original structures and buildings were kept, used for something else. If you've ever been out at Kincaid Park on the Nordic trails, you've probably seen some of the old missile storage bunkers. And a few of the sites were kept in close to their original configuration in order to preserve the history of the program. One of those being, of course, our very own Site Summit, which gave us this. That star that almost made me wreck my car a couple years ago. It's beautiful, and I love looking at that star, so I'm going to leave you with the story of how that came to be. It was the idea of Captain Douglas Everett. He was the first commander of Site Summit, and it started as a 30-foot wide star on one of the buildings up there at the site. Well, you can't really see that too well unless you're up there. So over the years, it evolved into what it is now. It's on the side of the mountain. You can see it from just about anywhere in Anchorage. It is 300 feet wide, made up of 320 light bulbs. And it's turned on every year as part of the City of Lights Festival, the weekend after Thanksgiving. And it stays on until the last musher of the Iditarod safely crosses the finish line sometime in March. And it's also turned on for 24 hours every year on September 11th, so that we can remember the people we lost that day. And Captain Everett wanted this to be a gift to the people of Anchorage. And that's why I love this so much. He wanted us to just be able to look up into the mountains at any time and just see that star and be reminded of his message that, hey, we're up here, and on our watch, nothing is going to harm you tonight. Because there are people out there that want to do some really bad stuff. But we're up here, and we're going to stay vigilant, we're going to watch out, and we are never going to fire that first shot. Because if we don't, someday, maybe missile sites like this just won't be necessary. Because we're going to do what's right, and we're going to treat everyone with the love and the respect that they deserve, even if they are from a Juneau. I'm kidding again. Thank you so much, guys. You're awesome. You got the rock tonight. Thank you.